Hello and welcome to today's episode of Need I Say Myrrh, the Christmas podcast. And today I'm delighted to welcome to the podcast Matthew Weston. Hello, Matthew.
Hi there, Adam. Good to be here.
It's very good to have you, and you are wearing a Christmas jumper. Do you want to describe your festive jumper to us?
It is a combination of Christmas trees and penguins, that classic festive combination. And I'm pretty sure it was a charity shop purchase from my wife a few years ago, but it has lasted well.
That's good. It's always good to find a good charity shop Christmas jumper bargain, isn't it? Anyway, talk about your jumper. I should have asked you who you are. Obviously, I have some idea, but for our listeners, who are you, Matthew? Where are you? What do you do?
I'm Matthew Weston. I am pastor of a small church in varyingly described as Northeast or East London, depending on who you speak to. Some people even want to call it Essex. I wouldn't go that far. But we've been here about 18 months. I'm not from London originally. I am, though, definitely English. I grew up in Oxford. Got two little girls and a wife who came in the opposite order.
And so 18 months, so this is your second Christmas there in the church.
It is, yes. So I received an email earlier I suppose last week now, saying the Christmas tree is arriving and it's going to be decorated and you don't need to do anything. And I thought, yes, that is good news for everyone.
Yeah, that's good. And other than the Christmas tree, what does Christmas look like in Crowfield Hill?
We have a kind of family Christmas on a Sunday morning where we hope to get loads of people in for a service aimed at families. So with a very accessible talk to the kids. And then we have a more traditional, when it was done historically, it was 9 lessons and carols. Ours is 7 lessons because we don't quite have enough time, and carol. That's on an afternoon after the lights have gone down, and so we can officially say that it's by candlelight, because fire regulations do actually allow us to do that still, apparently. Those are kind of our big Christmassy things. And then we've got a Christmas craft evening, and we've got various things in youth groups and toddler groups with a Christmas theme.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, so a good full program, and hopefully you'll see quite a few people coming along and hearing about why we celebrate Christmas, which is a good opportunity. And I am you mentioning the lessons and carols. I'm not sure if I've come across a church outside of like the official broadcasts that happen on radio and TV, a church that actually does 9 lessons. I think 7 is the most that I've ever come across.
And we don't call it that either.
No.
That's only just something I came across recently as a thing. I just like, oh, it's a carol service with candle, and you do Bible readings, and then you do songs that are linked with the
Yeah.
Bible reading. And it was only in the last couple of years that I realized that it actually had a kind of official name.
Calling it lessons and carols might be off-putting to.
What exactly is a lesson in that context? Am I going to take you through every line of the carol and say, well, this is what this bit means?
But because we do welcome correspondence on this podcast, and I'm wondering if you are out there and you're a church leader and you have a carol service where you have more than 7 lessons or 7 readings, then we'd love to hear from you. We can have a competition to see who in the UK has the most readings in their carol service, and the winner can win. I don't know what they can win. A Christmas pudding. We'll go with that. So needisaymyrrh@gmail.com. That's our email address for correspondence. Needisaymyrrh@gmail.com. We'll put together a leaderboard for our correspondence episode. And we should get on with the questions that I prepared. You mentioned the Christmas tree that you are not decorating, but I still want to know about your views on decorating. And what is your favourite Christmas decoration?
I think the tree is my favorite Christmas decoration just in itself. I think I have particular childhood memories of the Christmas trees that we had growing up, and the particular lights and baubles and things that I made when I was at primary school that really aren't worth displaying, but we display anyway. But just that combination of things, and I have a picture in my head of the house we lived in from the age of my age of 13 to when I left home, and where the Christmas tree was, and going into it after dark and seeing it light up the room. And that particular memory, I think, is sort of my favorite Christmas decoration, yet to quite be replicated in my sort of contemporary life.
Okay, so you're still aspiring to re kind of enact that.
Yeah, I think we just need to wait for our kids to be of the age where the baubles don't get broken, and then we might be able to recreate it.
So you have a real tree each year?
We do. Probably in a couple of weeks' time, I will have a very strong opinion over which variety of fir tree is the right one to get, which I will subsequently forget by next year and do all the research again. All I remember is that last year we drove actually about 10 miles up the road to what at the time was the nearest garden centre we could find, and then discovered that the tree we'd bought barely fitted into the back of our car. So for about 3 months afterwards, we were discovering Christmas tree needles in most of the car, given that it had been sticking out the middle right past my children and obscuring the rear view mirror. And we have an estate car. Like, I'm not quite sure how that happened.
Yeah, you just wanted a big tree. So you'll be more prepared this year, hopefully.
I hope so.
Yeah, well, let us know how you get on. But we can move on to food and your least favorite festive food.
Well, I probably have two, and they're all to do with kind of the mixing of families. So I grew up with brandy butter being served alongside Christmas pudding. And when I was a kid, I didn't like it. But as I grew older, I thought, oh, this is actually really nice. And when I got married, I went to my in-laws for Christmas and they served brandy sauce rather than brandy butter. Now, this seems to be a kind of geographical thing, like brandy sauce perhaps more common in the north, brandy butter in the south. I don't really know. Anyway, they know this, so this isn't letting in anybody on a secret, but I definitely prefer brandy butter and I will avoid the brandy sauce if I can. But the other one is probably one that, I will have the brandy sauce just about, but bread sauce. My dad
Okay.
brought that into our family from his parents. My mum very kindly learnt how to make it, but I don't think it was worth the effort.
Yeah, no, I'm not a fan of bread sauce at all. Like I love bread and I love sauce.
Yes, I like bread and butter pudding. That is top notch. If you want to do something with bread other than sandwiches or toast, bread and butter pudding is definitely a good option.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of bread and butter pudding either. Maybe it's just that I don't like anything too adventurous to be done with bread. But we'd better move on from food to traditions, and I'm particularly interested to know what your Christmas Eve traditions are.
Well, growing up, I think Christmas Eve tradition was preparing potatoes and Brussels sprouts to be cooked the next day. That seemed to happen most Christmas Eves. We had an interesting experience when with my wife's family over Christmas once, where on Christmas Eve, my wife said, well, it's Christmas Eve, so we should do what our family tradition is and open one present the night before. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, that's a great idea. And then my wife's dad just said, we've never done that. And I still, to this day, don't know whether he's correct or my wife was just trying to get a present opened, or whether he's just got a really bad memory. I don't know, or he's just joking because that's the kind of guy he is. But that was apparently a Christmas tradition. We may be running with that one. Um, but my ideal sort of Christmas Eve, I think, would just involve sitting with a family, reading a good book, maybe an open fire, nice glass of something to drink. But I think that's just my ideal winter evening in general, not specifically Christmas Eve.
Yeah, what would you be reading by your crackling fire with your drink in your hand?
Oh, that's it. That's a good question. At the moment, my girls are of the age where lots of books seem to involve unicorns, fairies, talking animals. The current one of choice is The Royal Rabbits of England, which we just started last night, and sounds like it's going to be quite fun because apparently there's a warren of like super ninja bunnies that live underneath Buckingham Palace. And we've yet to find out what they do, but that sounds like it would be quite fun.
There are a lot of good unicorn bunny and fairy books out. Yeah, a lot of very similar unicorn and fairy and bunny books out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think my children are learning about sort of how plots work because it is the same one, just with slightly different characters or different magical objects. There have been particular series where I'm just very glad when they get tired of them, because of course, as a parent, I've got tired of it about 15 books previously.
Yeah, with the Daisy Meadows writing syndicate that keeps producing more and more books. There we go. We should move on from Christmas Eve traditions to get to Christmas carols. Because obviously as pastors, we have to choose carols to sing at different points, and we're very used to singing carols. What is your favourite Christmas carol?
It's hard to say. The one that's been going around my brain for the last week or so, as a Christmas song is a new one, or at least it's new to me, called "If God Had Not First Loved Us" by the. I don't know what it is about kids' Christian music, but there are some names that take some explaining out there. This is Dumb Rocks, and there's "If God Had Not First Loved Us." Yeah, it's kind of a thought experiment about, if God had not first loved us, then all of these things we associate with Christmas just wouldn't have happened. But
Mm.
as it is, God did love us and came, in the person of his son, as a baby in the manger in Bethlehem.
Mhm.
And so it's just a lovely song. I think it will work. I'm a musician by background. I think it will work really well as a choir piece. So I'm thinking of that for future years. But on that, I think one of my favorites, which I keep coming back to, is there's the classic carol "O Holy Night," but made famous, of course, by the film Home Alone. But there's a kind of modern lyrics version where they've added a couple of verses from Sovereign Grace Music in the States. And a friend of mine and I did a choir arrangement of it a few years ago, which I've since conducted at a number of different carol services and things like that. But I just think the carol itself, it's a beautiful tune, and the new words that they've added are just glorious. Finishes with the invitation, receive the gift of heaven. And that is a great thing to remember at Christmas. Thinking about gifts, thinking about presents. Actually, Christmas is all about the greatest gift of all. This carol calls us to receive him, to receive Jesus. So that's probably a favorite. I've got a slightly shall we say, avant-garde Christmas song as well. This is definitely worth looking up if you've ever wondered what taking a Victorian era Christmas song and combining it with kind of electronic dance music. If you've ever thought what that might look like, then look up "Come See a Child of Low Estate" by Zach Hicks. It is absolutely banging. It is a great song for driving along with your kids in the back and just belting it out. I mean, you've got to be careful if your hands are on the steering wheel, that you don't kind of steer in time with the music. That's always one of my dangers. But it's definitely worth listening to. Perhaps at home if you're like me and might be on the road by accident.
Yeah, but it's important to include that warning for any listeners who might be tempted to take unnecessary risks. But yeah, I'm not familiar with that, so I look forward to looking that up after this episode and seeing what it's like and driving along. I've never really thought about myself steering in time with the music, but maybe I'd be doing it without realizing it, and that would explain the points on my license. But anyway, it's yeah, good to have those things. And I'm not familiar with the Dumb Rock song either, or at least I may have heard it in the past, but I haven't heard it recently. But that's yeah, good to think about when we think about what things would be like if God had not first loved us, then that can lead us to an even greater sense of wonder at the fact that actually he did, and that he chose to love us. So thank you, Matthew. Thank you for joining us for this podcast. And we hope that you have a very happy Christmas.
And the same to you. It's been a joy to be here.
Ho, ho, ho. Merry Christmas.